All right, good morning, everybody. My name is Eric Schneider. I'm the president and co-founder of Innovate K-12. It's great to have everyone here listening. I don't have any guests with me today. I'm gonna go through this second part of the design workshop overview, and I'm gonna keep this pretty brief today. Focusing on the last two segments of the process, prototype and test. So I'm going to cover the agenda here. Let me get the slide moving forward. There it is. So we're going to just start off talking a little bit about that transition from ideate into prototype and get into the details on prototyping, specifically with that lean focus that we often talk about. We'll get into testing. That is where we really want to focus on metrics. What are the defined metrics for success? And then really having that bias toward action. Let's get started. You know, that's really got to be the vibe as you wrap up the design workshop and head into the testing phase. Got that disclaimer again. We had that last week. Just acknowledging the fact that there's not one single correct way to facilitate these workshops. There's lots of great resources out there. Other folks who have posted videos or written things about design thinking or human-centered design. So, you know, what we share here are things that we know have worked in our experiences. But by all means, this is not the only place where you can learn about this great problem-solving method. So just be clear about that. Let's move on. That transition from ideate into prototype is a really, really important transition. You can imagine at this stage of the workshop, and again, we do 40 minutes on empathy and then 20 minutes on the other four. So at this stage, you're 80 minutes in, so an hour and 20 minutes, you can just imagine. There's a lot of stress in the room, a lot of Post-it notes up on the wall. It is, you're almost 3/4 of the way through your 2-hour window. And so the adrenaline is really pumping at this stage. And what you want to be doing as you transition is organizing those ideate Post-it note brainstorms into clusters so that there's a really nice, tight kind of clustering of the different ideas that are surfacing. And then, you know, as you're pulling your group together and kind of reading the wall, you know, the question you ask the team is, what's our best shot at success here? What, you know, of these various ideas, we're not going to prototype all of them. You know, if we had more time, resources, we might build more than one prototype. But the plan here is to find the idea cluster that we think we have the best chance for success. And also, you know, it's a good time to drop in that word lean. You know, remember, gang, we're looking for lean solutions here. So let's not pick an idea cluster where it's going to be hard to build a lean solution. Just a great time to introduce that because when we get into the prototype phase, which is this next slide here, it is going to be all about lean. And so that's going to come front center, and you want to make sure that people can anticipate that. When you get into this prototype phase of the process, what you're really going to focus on, now you've chosen your idea that you want to design for. Now we get into the details. This is, you see from that third bullet, you know, this is where we get into the details. This is a focusing step. So we're not flaring, we're focusing, and we're thinking about the who, the what, where, when. You'll get into the details of this solution. And then really think about what's the smallest, leanest version that we can come up with. You know, what's the tightest window of time that'll give us data to tell us whether or not this is working. You know, I always encourage teams to see if they can't develop a test that can be run in a 2-week window maximum. You know, if you could run in a 2-week window, you can get some data, find out, you know, whether or not this is working, and give your team the confidence to move forward, to say, okay, we passed through stage 1, we're ready to go to stage 2, we expand our prototype, you know, but you got to have that early win, you got to have that that data that says, hey, you guys are on the right track. So, but you got to think about who's going to be involved in running the test. You got to assign roles. What exactly are they going to do? Who, what, where, when. Super, super important to get the details all captured and get real commitments from people. Oftentimes it'll be people in the room who want to work on the prototype, and that's great. Sometimes you don't have those people in the room, so you're going to have to go get them afterwards. But you've got to know those details. They're super important. And sometimes it helps to have a template that you can work on. I know Kristen has used this one up in Cambridge. Just more of a form or a template that you can fill out that gives the team some clarity about what are the questions we're trying to answer here in this phase. But once we get the details, and again, sometimes that comes together really quickly and nicely because people are, like I said, that the adrenaline's flowing, people are excited. But we've got to come up with metrics, and that's where you get to the fifth and final step of the process, determining metrics for the test. What does success look like for this prototype? Oftentimes, what you want to be thinking about with this very first early stage prototype is, how about just pre-survey, post-survey? If we're going to try something in a classroom, let's survey the students at the start of the week and then survey them at the end of the week and try to track to what extent did they notice that something was different. That is legitimate data. That survey data is a good example of, that second bullet. Really reasonable, achievable metrics. So often we make the mistake, I think especially in education, of setting metrics that are unreachable, unreasonable. We expect to increase reading and math scores, way too fast, and so great innovations never see the light of day because they just don't have enough runway to, to actually hit those big markers. So set reasonable metrics, something that you feel good about. 70% of the students in the class notice a difference. Okay, 30% didn't, and that's a bummer, but 70 is a big number. And if you get 70% yes, that's go forward. And then that that third bullet, be ready to learn. You can make quick iterations, and in your test, in your prototype, when you see something needs a tweak, it's not working quite correctly, stop the test, make the change, start over again. I think that's the measure of a really, really strong prototype team, design team, is they're not afraid to stop and say, wait a minute, we should have done it like this instead. Let's make that change and let's go. All right, and then I got a mystery bullet there. Sorry about that. And then finally, this is excuse me, slide 4. This really projects that attitude of bias toward action. Let's get started. Make a plan to start that test the next day. You really want to capture the energy of this workshop, and people are going to be excited. And if you could start the test the next day, it is such a win for the team. They feel so good about their effort. And assuming that you're able to get it started quickly, communicate early and often with that team. Whoever the lead communicator is, they really carry a responsibility to keep the rest of the workshop or the design team informed about how things are going. Super important. Here's I think just a suggestion that I would make. This third bullet around capturing images. So many of the prototypes on ideas that we've run in the past, we didn't do this. We didn't, get out our phone and take a picture of the prototype in action, and you really regret it because it's hard to recreate those moments, and they're so powerful to share later. Because you're really, in this prototype management phase of this innovation work, you've really got two important jobs. You're sort of a lab tech. You're testing and iterating and making changes and measuring. But you're also a communications director. You're also trying to capture images, tell the story, keep people excited about it. There's that's sort of the external face of this work is, you don't want to lose the energy and support of the crowd. So that's two really important things to be thinking about as you're going into the prototype development and what I call kind of the project management component of this work. So I'm going to stop there. By all means, reach out to us if you have questions. We'll do a lot here to support you in your efforts. But hopefully this has provided a little bit of insight into the prototype and testing segments. And as always, best of luck to all of you in this really exciting work. Thank you.